Hey everyone, I'm Robin Green, LCSW, trauma therapist and co-host of this podcast.
And I'm Stephanie Edsel, also a trauma therapist and your other co-host. We're really glad you're here. Okay, Robin, before we get into today's topic, I just want to say this is something I wish I had known years ago. I used to think that healing meant sitting in a therapist's office, retelling everything that ever happened to me in excruciating detail.
Oh my goodness, same. I thought if I didn't cry or feel wrecked after a session, it wasn't real. It wasn't real work. And now I think some of the deepest healing comes from soft moments, from safety, from not having to go back into the story.
So today, we're talking about healing that doesn't involve reliving and what that actually looks like. Because sometimes the idea of trauma therapy feels like too much. And people put off getting support for years because they think that's the only way in.
Right? And the truth is there's so many other ways for healing. Some start at home, some happen with support, and some are really weird and wonderful, like animal therapy or a sand tray or laughing yoga. That's a thing, which is really cool, weird,
Sounds
interesting.
Sounds amazing. I want to go check it out.
I know.
Like, why not?
Right?
Yeah.
Why not? This episode is kind of like a menu, so you can start to get a feel for what your nervous system might want to try now or later.
But for now, what we'll talk about different kinds of support, from solo practices to therapist-only tools, because that is really important. You don't get more harmed. So noticing there is no pressure, just options, because healing is allowed to be creative, affirming, and even enjoyable sometimes.
That's right.
Notice something around you. A color, a sound, the feeling of your body where it's resting.
There's no right way to arrive. Just being here is enough.
You don't need to be ready or in the right headspace. There's room for all of you here, just as you are. All right, let's get going on this. We broke this up into parts, and the first part is all about noticing if you're not quite ready for therapy yet. You're still allowed to heal. So you don't have to be in therapy to begin shifting your nervous system. These practices offer gentle entry points that support presence, safety, and self-awareness without requiring you to go deep. Gentle somatic practices, orienting, breath holds, hand over heart. These invite the body into the present moment and a sense of felt safety. Bilateral sound, alternating left and right, supports hemispheric integration and calm.
Grounding in nature, gardening, walking, bare feet in dirt, all of that regulates through rhythm and sensory contact with the earth. Music for co-regulation, like low rhythm, familiar voices. This lets your nervous system borrow someone else's calm. Noticing practices, try asking what feels most neutral in my body right now. Or am I aware of my breath or posture? Journaling without pressure. This is a difficult one for a lot of people because when you see your thoughts on paper, it can be hard. And so easing into journaling can look like using bullet points, word lists, doodles, or even color coding days. So then you could look back and see, how many days were okay, how many days were good, non-pressure ways.
So there's other things also, creative containment, coloring, baking, organizing, collaging. Activities with a clear start and finish help bring closure. Laughter yoga or mirror play, silly, spontaneous activities that surprise the system into shifting out of freeze. And it does work. So you don't actually have to be in therapy to start regulating. You just need to start somewhere to begin listening to your body.
Okay. And part 2. So these are some tools that you can pair while you're in therapy. And this is in the hope of deepening the work in between sessions, or even when words might fall short, that you can bring into session then. So these approaches can amplify or complement talk therapy, really helping you explore emotion, memory, and regulation from all different angles, especially when verbal processing isn't your go-to.
And some more creative and expressive therapies. Some of these are my absolute favorites. The sand tray therapy. This is really symbolic and sensory and often story optional. This uses miniatures to reflect and process without words. Music therapy. We're going to be regulating with rhythm. There's resonance and emotional movement. It's pretty powerful. Expressive arts therapy, like painting, drawing, dance, movement, poetry, ritual. Allowing safe expression through creativity is a really, really grand way to practice. Maybe I didn't know I could bring a guitar or I could paint a picture. And so it's not the same therapy world that some of our ancestors grew up in. And it's fruitful, bountiful, I think. Come out here and see what it's all about. There's probably something that might pique your interest.
That's right. That's right. We also have somatic and body-based work. There's breath work. There's some gentle styles that really can support presence without activating any overwhelm. Some people find it hard to do breath work, and easing into it is the best way to just kind of dip your toe in and see if you want to go for the swim. Somatic practices like pendulation and titration. And pendulation is the gentle movement between activation and calm, while titration means working with just a small piece of sensation or memory at a time. And both of these really help build nervous system resilience without overwhelm. And it really allows you to move between activation and calm in a way that builds resilience and that agency and self-trust. There's also parts work. This is going to support that compassionate connection with internal states or parts of ourselves. And that can look like IFS informed work, structural dissociation. And then there's other supportive approaches, sound healing, tuning forks, singing bowls, sound baths, if you ever have an opportunity to do that, or even binaural beats that really move the body to those slower rhythms that it's craving.
Animal-assisted and equine therapy. This builds trusts and presence through nonverbal connection. Sometimes your nervous system doesn't need a story. It needs color or rhythm or even a sense of being held.
Okay, it's time for our nervous system nugget. Healing can begin in a quiet moment. You don't have to tell your whole story to shift your nervous system. Sometimes it starts with one image, one breath, or one safe rhythm.
Part 3 is all about therapist-only interventions. Not DIY, but often transformative when guided with care. If some of these sound unfamiliar, that's okay. You don't need to understand or try them all. And if you can hear my dog breathing in the background, that is what is happening. She's just very loud at breathing. The invitation here is to get curious about what sounds like a potential fit. Remember, we talked about accelerated resolution therapy, or ART for short. This works with image and eye movement. This does not require talking through trauma. This is currently like my favorite modality to use. I had a session last night with a person who genuinely just looked me in the eye and said, "This is what I was looking for. I'm so tired of talking about it." I said, "I know. That makes a lot of sense." And then we have EMDR, another favorite. Structured and paced. This helps the brain reprocess stuck experiences.
Another one is deep brain reorienting, or DBR for short. This really gets underneath the narrative and into the body's original shock response. We also have the stellate ganglion block, or SGB. This is a medical intervention that helps calm those really intense fight or flight symptoms. There's ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. This can access blocked emotional material with support. And there's also transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS for short. This is gentle magnetic pulses, and you put these on areas where the brain is impacted by trauma or depression.
Then there is sensory motor psychotherapy, slow body first trauma work. Neurofeedback helps the brain shift out of old patterns by retraining itself. Hypnosis, or NLP, trauma informed only, please. This opens subconscious patterns in a safe, contained way. Listen, these aren't better. They're just other ways in. For some people, they create openings that talk therapy never could.
Okay, and now for part 4, what to look for in a therapist when you're ready or even just thinking about it. For me, I would want to look for someone who's trained in trauma and nervous system regulation, looks at attachment styles, and uses affirming, non-pathologizing language.
I love that. It makes a lot of difference. We want to notice people that support pacing, choice, agency, right? They're not trying to set your goals for you or tell you what you need. Somebody that knows body cues, understands sensory needs, shut down, and freeze. Somebody that can help you feel curious, not ashamed.
Right, and somebody that encourages creativity, flexibility, and autonomy. And it's really okay to shop for that right fit, and you'll know.
I agree. It's kind of how every profession is, that there are some people that, like, this just isn't a really good fit, and that doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just noticing.
Yep.
Part 5, knowing what you're ready for. Readiness looks like curiosity. Small windows of openness. Feeling activated isn't always bad, but we want safe activation.
Here's a coping tool that we call the 10% shift. If change feels overwhelming, try this. Instead of aiming for better, aim for 10% more support, 10% more presence, 10% less pressure. It's going to add up, and your nervous system notices.
That's how it builds trust with you. We're really glad you spent time with us today. If this gave you something to think about, or even just a little exhale, we'd love for you to share it, honestly.
Yes, and thank you for being here with us. All the comments you make when you download the episodes and listen to it, we notice and we get so excited that we are building this community. So again, thank you for being here with us. We are so glad you're part of this community. And you can find us on Instagram at Two Therapists Walk Into a Podcast. And if you're exploring what healing could look like for you, just know there's no wrong door in.
And remember, healing isn't linear, and we're here for the ride.
Thanks for sitting with us today. If something resonated, we'd love it if you shared the episode, left a review, or connected with us on social media. We're two therapists walk into a podcast on most platforms. You can listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not therapy, does not replace therapy, and does not establish a therapist-client relationship. If you're in crisis, please reach out to a qualified mental health professional or call 988 in the US. Robin Green is a licensed therapist in Arizona. Stephanie Edsall is licensed in Utah. And this podcast is intended for a general audience.